All right, for today's video review, we're going to be taking a look at Transformers Generations Legacy Evolution Deluxe Class Breakdown, our final Stunticon. And, for a figure that is almost entirely a straight up and down repaint, there's kind of a weird amount of things to talk about with this figure. I'd say he looks fairly good in his car mode here. It is just a retool of the Wild Rider mold, although the bulk of what's actually changed, at least in this mode, is the entire back section, and we'll show that off in a bit because they've tooled it so he can have his spoiler here to make it look a little bit more like a Lamborghini, even though it does still kind of look like the car, whatever the car is that that Wild Rider is. I'm not really much of a car guy, but yeah, no, I'd say he looks fairly good in his car mode. On top here, there's a bit of sort of mismatched paint to plastic color with the white up here, where the roof is, obviously painted white over this kind of cloudy, translucent plastic, and doesn't really match the white plastic, but it's not the end of the world. He does come with just one weapon, unlike all of the other Stunticons, I guess, save Motormaster, who each come with two weapons that are identical. It's kind of interesting. Now, because it's retooled up here so that the spoiler actually, tabs in here in the back. Before on Wild Rider, the two peg holes were here, but on Breakdown, they're here so that you can plug in the spoiler. But also, because you plug in the spoiler, it means that you can't, like the other ones, plug the weapon on top like you would with the other, three Limbots who each had the dual weapons on the top there. For him, he actually has his own dedicated piece of storage. This might be the same piece that's on Wild Rider, but, just the gun actually has a place to fit it. But you can actually plug it here underneath the car completely unobtrusively, which in theory is great. I do love that because that's always what I'm asking for, is weapon storage completely under the car. With this particular figure, this might be the only time you hear me complain about that, because it's a little bit irritating to me that he doesn't have the same kind of weapon storage as the other three, because I was only able to kind of write off the guns on the top of the car with the other three Stunticons because I thought it kind of looked cool, and it would be kind of cool to have, all four of the Limbots kind of doing that. But he's different, and it's a little strange that he's the one that's different since he's literally a retool of another figure. So a little strange. I don't know what I would have wanted them to do. I guess I would have wanted them to keep both sets of peg holes here and then maybe give him a second gun. I don't know. It's not really a thing that I need to complain about, because at the end of the day, this is better weapon storage than the other three. It's a little bit irksome to me in principle that they all don't do the same thing, since the other three kind of did. So it's a little weird, but hey, at the end of the day, the weapon stores under the car. I shouldn't really complain about that. But yeah, no, I'd say he looks pretty good in his car mode overall. To get into comparisons, just for the standard one, here he is with Kingdom Sideswipe, and actually here he is with Kingdom Sunstreaker as well, just because, was he Kingdom? No, he's Earthrise. Just because, notionally, Breakdown is also supposed to be like a Lamborghini, kind of like they are, and obviously, since he's now a retool of Wild Rider, he's not really. One thing that I did notice, which is kind of interesting, take this information for whatever it's worth, but if you unpeg the spoiler here, it actually does fit on Sunstreaker. Like the pegs are more or less the same distance apart, so you can give Sunstreaker a spoiler without an add-on kit, I guess, if you just take it from him. And it's white, but I don't know. I don't think it looks that great on him because, since these guys are kind of wider figures, you'd want the spoiler to also be wider. But I don't know. I thought that it was kind of neat, so worth mentioning. And then here he is with the previous version of Breakdown that we had, the Combiner Wars version. You can see he's much more of a sort of a pure white, whereas the Combiner Wars one was kind of this off-white. Like this isn't, he hasn't yellowed. This is the color he pretty much always was. So, you can see how the two of them look together. He looks a little bit more like a Lamborghini, I guess, but I think overall this is a better looking car mode, all things considered. And then last but not least, here he is with the other remaining Stunticon members. There's Motormaster. I'm going to leave the trailer off so I don't have to transform it a bunch of times for combined mode. Wild Rider, dead end and drag strip, so you can see what all 5 of them look like together. And yeah, I think this turned out pretty well. Like I said, it's a little strange to me now that the only of the 4 Limbots that doesn't have the double weapons on top is Breakdown, but yeah, you know, whatever. I still think they all look good together, all things considered. And I do want to look at Breakdown with Wild Rider specifically, so you can see some of the stuff that's retooled here in the back. So you can see that they, you know, they didn't just move the peg holes down. They also kind of resculpted this to look a little bit more Lamborghini-like. I think that, you know, this section is the same. It's just these panels right here. So, you know, they look good together. I do kind of wish that they had resculpted a bit more of him to maybe do the hood and the roof to be looking more like his original car. But, you know, the overall shape is there. I'm not, you know, I'm not bothered by it too much myself because I'm not that much of a car guy, but I could see how some people would be. But yeah, that's what they look like together. That's all the resculpting in this mode, at least. But yeah, to get onto transformation, we're going to just go straight to Metasaur right now because it's much easier to get to his leg mode from this configuration. Obviously, it's just like Wild Rider. You just want to, you know, kind of loosen this up and get your fingernail under the windshield and then bring that up and then bring this section up just like that and then bring that back down. And that's pretty much all you have there. And then you want to take the, get the leg section here of Metasaur. And then you just tab it on just like that. I haven't noticed any stress marks on him because I had that worry with Wild Rider, but granted, the part here with the actual pegs is painted over, so if there were stress marks, I don't know if I'd notice them, but otherwise it's, you know, pretty much the same. You just want to be kind of careful getting those pegs pegged on at the same time so you're not stressing out one or the other of them in particular, and just kind of, you know, press it on there and it pushes the panel open so that he's got his proper shin. I don't know why it's not it's not quite getting there. Hold on. Come on. Try taking the spoiler off. That's interesting. I did not have problems putting this on earlier today. Jeez. Okay, let's try that again. All right. Plug this on. Oh, you can notice there. There's actually a bit of blue paint there left on the peg, on both the pegs here. So maybe that'll loosen up over time. It's kind of annoying that they painted the inside of the peg hole there, but yeah, whatever. This should not be that difficult. Let's get this on here. There we go. That feels a lot better. And we can put the spoiler back on, and that's pretty much all you have for leg mode, and then we'll bring on the rest of Metasaur here. And obviously it attaches just like before by plugging on the leg just like that, and then we'll adjust the camera here. I mean, you've more or less seen Metasaur at this point. It's pretty much just the same as last time, just with all of the bits attached. And yeah, you know, overall, I'd say he's a pretty good Metasaur. I'd say definitely better than Combiner Wars version. Not without issue, but I think that he looks pretty good overall, and it is nice to finally have him combined and get the kind of full weight of him with all the deluxes attached. And yeah, you know, not much else to say. Like, you know, we've seen it before just with a hole in the leg, so it's pretty much the same. So nothing too crazy there. But yeah, we'll just put this off to the side for now and get on to transformation here. Now, I will say I did this off camera because it was a real pain, but this was so difficult to actually get off the back of the leg of Metasaur. I mean, just the tolerance there of having the extra paint in there just really did not help. It was super stuck on there. I actually had to put a tool in there and kind of pry it off, and it was really scary because, like I've talked about with Wild Rider, if you try to kind of like rotate it off, you're putting way too much stress on like one of these open sort of peg holes on one side or the other. So you really want to try to pull it straight off like that. But when the peg tolerance is so tight, that makes it really difficult. And I'm hesitant to try to like sand down those tiles or sand down the inside because the back of Metasaur's leg is spring-loaded. So if you go too far and it's too loose on there, then he probably won't be able to stay on at all. So that's a little bit troubling, I've got to say. So not in love with that, but whatever. I guess we'll continue on with the rest of the transformation. You do want to take the gun off, and you want to take the spoiler off as well. Just like with with Wild Rider, again, pretty much the same transformation. You want to take this windshield and fold it to the back there. Now, an interesting, again, this was a problem I always had with the Combiner Wars version of this general transformation scheme, but it wasn't a problem I had with Wild Rider. But when you try to fold the windshield down, it gets caught at a certain point, and it takes a distressing amount of force to actually snap it all the way there. So maybe I'll try to sand that down a little bit because, again, this is clear plastic, so a little bit worrisome. And then something that I didn't realize about Wild Rider is, you've got 2 slots right here that you try to like feed these pegs through, which is kind of annoying. And something that I didn't realize that you could actually do is just, activate the backpack transformation joint and then bring that down. And then if you want to leave it out like that, you can, but then just bring it back to the car mode configuration, which is what I prefer to do. And that just makes it a lot easier than trying to feed those pegs through those like tiny slots, I find. And then you want to take the arms, just fold them out to the side for now. Just so you have the clearance to take these panels with the feet on them, open them up, and then untab them from the back here, and then unfold them at the knees. Just like Wild Rider, the hinges at these knee joints are weirdly and annoyingly tight, but not quite as bad, I don't think. And then you just want to close up these panels and then fold down the feet, rotate them around at the waist. I just broke something, didn't I? Look at that. This little piece of plastic just snapped off of something somewhere. Great, cool. Love that. Can't even tell where that came from, which I guess means that it's not the end of the world if it's not visible anywhere, but oh, right there. Yeah, okay. This was the tab that the 2 feet kind of plugged into. Okay, great. Annoying, but whatever. You saw it live on camera. So fold that down the rest of the way. Fold out the hands and bring the arms down to the side. And then unfold the chest piece here. Fold out the head and then fold it back up. And there you have Breakdown in his robot mode. And yeah, all things considered, I think he looks fairly good. He does a bit of re-sculpting here, obviously on the head, but also the chest to give it the more typical Breakdown chest. Mine has a tiny paint blemish there, which is kind of annoying, but otherwise, I think he looks pretty good. Really, a lot of the identity of the figure that like deviates from Wild Rider is really supposed to be in the car mode, so it doesn't really matter so much that they're pretty similar looking in robot mode. I think he looks pretty good. Now, in terms of the weapons, you can have him hold this in his hand, and you can, I guess, have him hold the spoiler in his hand. Kind of not really, honestly, because it kind of bumps into things, but they kind of advertise this as being his second weapon, and A, it just doesn't really look good as a weapon, and B, he can't really hold it. It's just kind of nothing, and unfortunately, you really can't store either of the weapons like neatly on him, because before on Wild Rider, the only place that you could store the weapons was on the ports that were on the bottom of his legs, but since they're now on the top of his legs with Breakdown, the spoiler just really doesn't have that much clearance to plug in like this, because it's like a straight part and it's running into the angled bit here, so you kind of have to like angle it like that, which doesn't look good. And then you can plug the gun back there, but since the peg handle is kind of in the middle, it sort of blocks his knee articulation. So like, yeah, while he has the best weapon storage in his vehicle mode, in robot mode, you just kind of can't do anything with these. With the gun, I've found that you can kind of fold up the backpack and just kind of like put it in there like this and then wedge it down over like that. And that actually stays fairly well and doesn't really make the backpack stick out a whole lot. But this, you really can't do anything. Like, you could plug it into the front of his leg, sort of, I guess, but I think that looks bad. I think that the best solution for this is, and probably what I'm going to end up doing is, I'm going to try to cut this in half so that the individual sides can just stay there and then just use that as the gun storage. And I think that will be good enough for me, but I just kind of hate how much of an afterthought this spoiler was, because there's really just like nowhere to put it. And it, even if you're the kind of person who doesn't care about weapon storage and you just want them to always be holding their weapons, it doesn't even look good as a weapon. I don't think so. That's kind of a bummer. Like, yes, I could do that, but that completely null and voids one of his knee joints. So that's, I guess, the way to do it on the shelf if you don't care about it maintaining its articulation. But I don't know. I'm just going to put it off to the side for the rest of the review. But it's irritating how much of an afterthought the spoiler was, because they changed a weird number of things around to accommodate the spoiler, but didn't really accommodate it fully. So just annoying. Articulation is obviously just the same as Wild Rider. The head is on a swivel here, not a ball joint. The shoulders you can rotate around and then hinge out to the side. He's got a bicep swivel, about 90 degrees of bend at the elbow. The wrists can kind of bend in, again, with that weirdly clicky joint for no reason. He's got a waist cut there. The hips can go forward and back and out to the side. Thigh swivel, little tiny bit over 90 degrees of bend at the knee there. And then the feet can tilt forward for transformation, then tilt out to the side as well. One thing that I did notice with Wild Rider is that in comparison to Wild Rider, I should say, is that the feet are actually a new sculpt too, which I think that they just did to give him a port on the bottom, which Wild Rider didn't have, to maybe like work into the whole legacy evolution gimmick, even though the evolution gimmick is not that dissimilar from the regular legacy gimmick. So I don't know, but it's just something I noticed. Now, in terms of size comparisons in this mode, just for the standard ones, here he is with the Lambo brothers, just so you can see what he looks like with them. You know, pretty average size Deluxe, a tiny bit shorter than the two of them, but they still look good together. Here he is with Combiner Wars Breakdown, who I think he is a huge improvement over in terms of the just the general proportions. He was kind of one of the more awkward, weird-looking Combiner Wars figures, but, you know, they look good together. And then here he is again with the other Stunticons, with Motormaster, Wild Rider, Dead End, and Drag Strip. We'll raise the camera there a little bit for Motormaster. And yeah, the whole team I think looks pretty good together, all things considered. Again, yeah, I think that still from the very beginning, Drag Strip is still the best of them. I guess Dead End next. I mean, not counting. I mean, Motormaster I think is probably on par with Drag Strip. I think they're both good figures. He's probably, I like him a little bit more, but in terms of the Limbots, Drag Strip is the best, and then I guess Dead End, and then the two of them, so it's whatever. But yeah, to take a closer look at him specifically with Wild Rider, so you can see the differences there. The arms are entirely the same. The waist section is different. The chest section and the head are different. The lower legs are, well, the entire legs are entirely the same, aside from the feet, just really sculpting to give that, you know, port there. And then the back of the legs are a little bit different, obviously, just for, you know, the reshell of the back of the car. But, you know, more or less they're pretty much the same. But as long as the chest and head are different, I think that does wonders for making them look like different figures. But yeah, that's pretty much all there is to break down. Kind of a mixed bag, honestly. Like, it's weird how many different problems he has from Dead End, considering they're the same mold, not Dead End, sorry, Wild Rider, considering they're the same mold. But, you know, all things considered, I think he's still good, but, you know, I'm not thrilled about the fact that it's, you know, that the inside of these peg holes are painted, so it's really hard to make him sort of interface with Menasor. I'm not thrilled that there just kind of isn't any really official weapon storage at all, and one of his weapons is a spoiler that doesn't have anywhere to go or do have anything to do as a weapon, so that sucks. Obviously not thrilled that it broke when I was transforming it just now. I don't know how really integral that part really is to have, you know, these little pegs go there anyway, but still, that does, you know, obviously does not feel great, because I literally got this figure today, so not great to have it break so early. And you know, it like at the end of the day, I guess I'd prefer that the weapon storage be the way that it is, rather than the flawed kind of weapon storage of the other three. But it is a little weird to me that he doesn't just do the same thing as the other three, but I get it, because it's a, you know, kind of a symptom of the spoiler. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of a mixed bag, but that's pretty much all there is to him for whatever he's worth. If you enjoy my videos, make sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. I do reviews every Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. Without further ado, here we have Transformers Generations Legacy Evolution Breakdown.